Hi, and welcome to part 2 of my series on making this really cute bandage playset. So part 1, we made the bag and I showed you how easy and fun it was to use clear vinyl. Now I'm going to show you how to make these really cute bandages and you use Velcro with your embroidery machine. Welcome to my channel. My name's Mary with Sewing for Madison. Crafting is my passion and I love teaching others how fun and easy it can be. Let's go over what supplies we're going to need for today's project. Okay, for today's project you are going to need a cutaway stabilizer, your embroidery hoop, your pieces of Velcro or hook and loop is what it's also called. You're going to need a pair of straight scissors, a pair of applique scissors, and some clear Scotch tape. You may or may not need either a pair of hemostats or a pair of tweezers to help you get the tape off of the Velcro. So again, here's what we're going to be making today. We are going to be making these cute little band-aids. They have Velcro on both sides so that you can close them like that or close them like this, and they are great as a children's play toy. So this is part of our nurse play set that we have on my Etsy shop, and I also sell them individually. It's a super fun project, but working with Velcro can be a little bit intimidating, so I'm going to show you how easy it is. First of all, we're going to talk about cutaway stabilizer for a second. There are there's multiple types of a cutaway stabilizer, but the two that I primarily use is a heavy 2.5 ounce stabilizer. This is most commonly used for all of my in the hoop projects. I do like this one. It has some good weight to it and it holds the in the hoop designs very well. But this project is really flexible. We want the children to be able to use it without it being really stiff. So I'm not going to use this guy. I'm going to use a lighter cutaway stabilizer. This is a 1.8 ounce. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but this is a little bit more transparent than the 2.5. So if you can see that difference, I'll do that one more time. So can you see my hand going behind there? That's the 1.8. This is the 2.5. So a little bit different. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hoop our stabilizer. And today the machine that we're using for this project is my Brother Luminaire. Okay, that is ready to go. Let's head over to the machine. Okay, our first stitch here is going to be the placement for the interior band-aid part. So what we want to do is we want to put our brown fabric down. I'm using felt for this project just to keep it nice and soft. Now we're going to do our placement stitch. Okay, now that our placement stitches are done, we're going to put the interior of the band-aid, the little pads, fabric down, and I'm just using a cream for that. Now we're going to remove this from our machine. We're going to take this back over to our workspace and we're going to cut around each one of these rectangles. Here's where you want to have a really good pair of applique scissors. So I really like these. They're nice and curved and it makes it really easy. So you want to try to get as close to the stitch line as possible with your scissors because it's going to do this nice little satin overlay stitch when it is on the last step, and you don't want a bunch of jagged pieces. So get as close as you possibly can without cutting into the stitches. I like to hold my fabric a little bit tight with one hand while I'm cutting with the other. You want to make sure that when you're cutting out an applique that you're not picking up your hoop to do that. If you end up doing that, you could rip your design out of your hoop. So make sure that when you're cutting your applique, your hoop is flat on the table. You can spin it around, you just can't pick it up. All right, we're all trimmed up. We're gonna head back to the machine and do the placement stitches for the Velcro on the top. Okay, this next step is important. So you have your pieces of Velcro all set here for the sizes we need. Now there are two sides to Velcro. There is a loop side, which is kind of rough, and then a smoother side that it sticks to. You want to put the more rough side hook on the top of your hoop. And I found this by experience. So I have put the loop part on the bottom of the hoop and it kind of drags in the machine as it's going along. So I'm going to show you how to do it right here on the top, and we're going to tape it down with Scotch tape. Let me get my little piece first. I had to cut two pieces because this small Band-Aid is on a different alignment than the top one. So go ahead and match it up and then put your Scotch tape right over the top. So we want to make sure that it is nice and secure and that it's not going to snag in the hoop, okay? Now this piece happens to be a little bit rounded because it was the end of my roll, so I need to use a little bit of extra tape here. You might not need to use as much tape as I. And I'm going to do the long piece. Now make sure when you put this long piece on, you're not overlapping on the little piece we already put down. And don't be afraid to stitch right over the Scotch tape. It's not going to hurt your machine and it's easily removable. I don't like to use paper tape or the blue painter's tape or green, whatever color you're using for this, because if I miss a little tiny bit, then it is green or blue sticking in those loops, and I don't want to see that on my project. All right, I'm finally all taped down. Let's head back over to the machine and I'll show you how this stitches. Okay, this is a stitch that you're going to want to watch closely because you don't want any of the Velcro pieces popping up. So I'm just going to stand right here by the machine and watch it like a hawk. Okay, perfect. So we have it all tacked down here. We're going to take this back over to our work table. We're going to use our applique scissors and we're going to trim all around this Velcro and remove all that tape. Then we are going to secure felt to the back side of this project. All right, I'm ready to start removing the tape. This is a little bit tedious, but you can easily do it. All right, now I just have a couple small pieces in the center. That's where your tweezers or your hemostats come in good. All right, perfect. Got all of that out. Now let's grab our applique scissors and start cutting this out. This is really tough to cut with your applique scissors, so just take your time, take a little tiny bit at a time. It's just really crunchy and hard. And remember, we don't want to lift our hoop up when we do this because our design will come out. You want to also get this as tight as possible to that stitch line because we're going to have that satin stitch over top and we don't want it jagged. All right, got that all trimmed up. Now we're going to flip our hoop over and we're going to grab our other piece of brown felt, put that right on the back of the hoop and tape that down. You can use basting spray if you want, but I just like to use tape for these type of simple projects. All right, all secured. We're going to go back to the machine and it's going to do the outline of these Band-Aids. So I want to show you real quick that this design has two steps that are exactly the same. The first step, which I just stitched out, which you saw, is a placement stitch, and then here is the very next step. I do not like doing the same thing twice, so I'm going to skip through this step. So to do that on the Brother Luminaire, you click on this little plus minus with the needle symbol, and you're going to hit your down arrow. That's going to go to the next step, which is going to be our placement stitch for the Velcro that goes on the back side of our hoop. Okay, here we are going to flip our hoop over. And this is just a tidy thing that I like to do. So you can see all these thread knots here on the back side. I like to go ahead and trim those before I tape my Velcro on. And this just helps give it a professional look. And I don't want any of these threads poking out after we finish our design. So just give those a quick trim. And then I like to use a piece of tape to get them all off. Missed one. All right, there we go. And we're going to grab our smooth Velcro and we're going to tape it on just like we did on the front side. So we're going to start with our little tiny piece. We're going to tape right over the middle. And then we are going to grab our other piece. Make sure that you're not overlapping your little piece. Tape that side down. Okay, just like that. Now let's head back over to the machine and we're going to stitch the tack down stitch for this. Okay, so we are doing the tack down stitch for the Velcro on the back side. Okay, and just like on the front of our project, we are going to remove our tape here and we're going to cut around the Velcro. I'm going to trim the threads real quick and then remove this tape. Okay, all the tape is now gone. Now we're going to grab our applique scissors and start cutting. This is not as hard as the front side because it's a little bit softer, but still, take your time. Try to get as close to that stitch as possible without cutting into it. Okay, I'm going to just use a little piece of tape to get all the threads and the little tiny pieces off. I'm going to cut this a little bit shorter, try to anyways, a little bit long. All right, it's being stubborn. Okay. All right, great. Now we're going to head back to our machine and we're going to do the very last stitch. And that puts a satin finish stitch around the whole Band-Aid in the interior. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention earlier is your bobbin color. You want to make sure that you're using the same exact color as your top thread for this project because you can see this from both sides. Uh-oh, our thread broke. When my thread breaks, I always like to reset my bobbin. I'm just going to back my machine up a couple stitches and start again. All right, I have run out of bobbin thread. So, real world problems on this last step. Let me spin some new, and I might as well show you how I do this. Go ahead and put your bobbin on here. Cut my string up here. I'm using a big giant spool, so thread this around. I like to go around about 5 or 6 times. Lock it in and hit your start button, and there we go. putting my bobbin back in, and then gonna re-thread. All right, we are finally done sewing this last step. We're going to take this back over to our workspace and we're going to cut it out. Okay, our first job is to remove this from the hoop. And then we are going to grab our straight scissors and cut this out. Before I cut my designs out, I like to trim up any small threads. So I'm going to do that on the front and the back. Almost done. Missed a couple. All right, that looks a lot better. All right, now we're gonna use our straight scissors. I really like these spring-loaded scissors. They're really easy on my hand. I have a little bit of arthritis in my right hand from an injury, so these work really, really well. I'm gonna link them down below in the description in case you wanna check them out on Amazon. They're really inexpensive. I like to leave a little bit of gap between the stitches and the fabric here. I'm going to use millimeters here. It's probably about a 2 millimeter gap. All right, there we go. We have them all cut out. Well, that was a really fun project to do with you. I hope that you learned something new about working with Velcro. I did have a few snafus on that last step that I just want to take some time and talk to you about. Number one, my thread broke. And that can happen for a variety of reasons, but in my case, it was because my needle is dull. This is the second time that I stitched this out, and so I probably should have changed my needle out after that first one was done. Using Velcro, especially the hook and loop side, it is rough on your needles and it dulls them out and you can have a lot of thread breakage. So I'm using an 1175 needle for this project. If you need to, you can bump up to a 1490 if you're using a little bit heavier grade Velcro. It's totally dependent on your machine and how much Velcro that you're using. But again, I highly recommend that after every Velcro project, you switch out your needle so that you have the sharpest needle possible. You also saw my bobbin thread run out, and I showed you how to wind that on the Brother Luminaire. And I have one more tip to share with you. If you're running into a lot of problems with your thread breaking, you've changed out your needle, you've done all the things, one of the things that you can add to the top of your project is the topper. This is a clear topper that you've seen me use in a variety of my videos, and it works great for Velcro. You can either pin it down or tape it down, and your presser foot and needle will glide right over the top. So if you're struggling, use that tip. Now, I hope that you had fun watching this tutorial. If you missed part 1, go ahead and click over in my videos and you'll find part 1 where we made this really cute bag. Part 2 is this, obviously. And make sure that you smash that like button and you subscribe to my videos for more tips, tricks, and tutorials. Until next time, happy crafting.